Greetings, family, and welcome to another episode of Ask Dr. Mumbi. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How you doing? How's everything going? I really do pray, family, that you are extremely well in all your ways and that you're moving into living life in your own narrative, that you have become sovereign in yourself, and the movements and the tricks and the theater of Babylon are no longer throwing you off for days or throwing you out of balance, family, because that shows that someone else has more control of your heart and mind than you do, and you just can't risk that in these seasons and times that we find ourselves in. Special shout out to every single person that supports us through Patreon and sends us gratitude donations through PayPal. We appreciate, love you so much. We have a relocation service, family. Let me just get through all the, the admin. We have a relocation service. So if you're looking to move to the motherland and you'd like some advice on how to do it and you'd like us to connect you with one or two things locally, definitely get in touch at mumbi.saraki@gmail.com. And we have also started a spiritual council for those of you who have reached out to me before asking if I did one-on-one sessions. I have opened up a limited space to a few of my extended family here on YouTube and on Patreon. So reach out for more details, family. mumbi.saraki@gmail.com. So, as I told you, the real theme for 2025 is not reparations and justice and all these things, because we cannot get justice and true reparations and true restoration within the system that oppressed us and continues to oppress us till this day. It's not going to happen, family. We have to break away completely. And there's someone who had sent me a question late last year, and I thought it's all ties in beautifully to what we're discussing right now about how Tinubu, the president of Nigeria, was found to be an active CIA asset. Now, it was a long and murky road to how they even went to discovering it. And I think they, people, I don't know if it was US citizens in the disclosure, they have this disclosure act or something in the divided states. Someone contacted the CIA and asked them, and they actually confirmed. And the story first appeared on First Post, one of the mega, current international YouTube news stations, family. Actually, I don't even know if I don't have TV, so I wouldn't know if they're just YouTube or not. Anyway, stories for the days. So, and then after that, it blew up in Nigeria. So he's not even a former. He's a live asset right now as the president of a full country. And I really didn't see enough debate, enough outrage, family. Just like when we found out recently that the CIA may have been, and USAID may have been funding Boko Haram and things like that. There was not enough outrage. Or are we being subdued? Energetically, emotionally, psychologically, is something we already know something's in the air, and we already know something's in the food, family. So no surprise there. But the question that I had been asked actually from a Patreon family was, what did I make of Tinubu being a CIA asset, and what does that mean for the country and the liberation of the motherland? And were there any other CIA assets that I thought of that were actually live, that were presidents? Because how are you a president and an informant at the same time? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And for me, family, I really believe he's not the only one. Not even believe, I know. There was a lecture that was actually taken down from YouTube where Mzungu Man had talked about how far, now he was talking about how far cloning and central casting is. If you don't know what central casting is, definitely go look that one up. And he talked about how there would come a season and a time when a president would be selected, by the people. And within the first month, they'd replace him with either a casting or an AI or a clone. And people will say, oh no, the cloning isn't that far. They haven't reached those levels. Really? You already saw what happened with Biden and Biden 2.0 and 5.0. There were so many Bidens, tall Bidens, short Biden, shorter Biden. Anyway, sadly, family, we have to look at our presidents with suspicion, especially Akufo-Addo of Ghana. Is he still the president, or did you guys just have an election? Or am I dreaming? Definitely William Ruto of Kenya. There were rumors and allegations that this guy of Ethiopia, Abiy, that he had been chipped or cloned or something had happened to him in a trip to Dubai, and he had been aware that it was going to happen. I also suspect Ramaphosa. But how many of our presidents are live CIA assets or MI6 assets? There's been crazy rumors for a very long time that Kagame is actually an alphabet boy, that he was actually a product or a project of the CIA in the motherland. And if you look at how he's been made the poster child, and he's always been made the model nation and all these things, but when you look behind the scenes as his dictatorial ways, then you start to recognize why channels like the African Union are not going to be the place where we can discuss African liberation. It's not going to come from within the system, family. I've always said African liberation has to be spiritual, because they've got eyes and ears everywhere. And I remember being told by a senior politician one time that when I had gone to the African Union, and he was from West Africa, and he told me that, no one ever really talked freely, because you'd go into a ministerial meeting and someone has worn a bug for MI6, someone else has a bug for Mossad, someone else has a bug for the CIA, they're listening in. The French one, I don't know what the French secret whatever service is called. Or they were actively reporting, they were actively on the payroll. And that's why you see Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traore, keeping a very clear, even fifth bumps. The first person we ever saw him shake hands with like this, I don't know if he did with Putin. He might have done with Putin, was this lady when he went to the Ghanaian presidential elections. There are so many spies and traitors and sellouts within these governmental systems that we cannot hope and pray that it is the same governmental systems that will get us the liberation and the freedom and the independence and the reparations and the justice that we need. And this is why Africa, it's not that Africa has not tried to get a hold of its own minerals, to be independent, to run its own affairs, but there's always interference. Can you imagine what it means, family? That the president of one of the most powerful, the giant of Africa, is a live CIA asset. That is complete insanity. I mean, they're even saying, anyway, let me not get into that about Trump and who he is, but let me focus on the motherland, family. Anyway, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What will liberation for Africa really look like when all our government systems have been hijacked? Our money-making systems have been hijacked. Our healthcare is totally reliant on Western medicine. This is the one chance where at least the poor still use their herbal medicines, family. Like where I live in my village, most of the people here take, special roots from the forest and all these things. And it's amazing. It's amazing the impact on your mind and your body when you're taking, the bark of like 40 trees in a specialty is amazing. But they have hijacked every level. Remember when I used to talk about the 7 pillars of the government, of the system that controls us: religion, education, socio-economic, socioeconomic, like police, hospitals, all that stuff, economics, money, the government, the health, the education, and all that. And there were like 7 pillars of this mountain called neocolonialism. So as we think about us awakening and restoring ourselves and moving into being truly autonomous, we have to look at the way Ibrahim Traore has done it. And it's funny because they always said that the revival, the restoration of the motherland will come from the east. And if you know that they flipped the map of Africa and it's actually upside down, then you'll understand in a stand and overstand that revival is already well on its way. And we have a perfect blueprint. I share this story as much as I'm answering the question, family. And if you have any questions, you can always email us, mumbi.saraki@gmail.com. Put Ask Dr. Mumbi in the subject line. And we usually pick the ones which we get most requests from. But I share this in this season to say, family, that we really have to be discerning as we move towards Africa's new dispensation, to make sure that these guys don't hijack it again and put us into a globalist colonial system. Africa also has to be alert to ensure that we are not allowing ourselves to become the headquarters of the globalists now that they've been kicked out of the divided states. And a lot of these presidents' family, they're too compromised. They're gonna have to go one way or another, but we pray it will be peaceful. But if we must fight for our independence, then the ancestors and the ancient ones who have been reborn are surely ready for that. Anyway, special shout out to every single person that supports us on Patreon and sends us love donations through PayPal. We appreciate, love you so much for your support, family. And if you'd like a spiritual one-on-one counsel session, get in touch for more details. mumbi.saraki@gmail.com. Tuko pamoja. To all the dispossessed youth of Africa, for perpetuation of communion with ancestral spirits through the fight for African freedom, and in the firm faith that the dead, the living, and the unborn will unite to build the destroyed shrines.